When an Ivy League educated man with a debilitating back condition suddenly becomes an expert marksman capable of assassinating a healthcare CEO in broad daylight, you have to ask yourself, are we being told the full truth? Well, the Luigi Mangione case, it reads like a spy thriller, but something's not adding up. A 262-word manifesto seems written by committee. $8,000 in cash he claims was planted. A roommate who says he was like two different people. And now, 40 days before Trump takes office, the media is spinning this as if it's a simple case of healthcare rage. Really? And just as the Mangione case is making Americans question the integrity of our healthcare system, many are questioning how they'll afford to heat their homes this winter. But while the truth about this assassination remains cold, your home doesn't have to be. This revolutionary portable heater has become my secret weapon against crippling energy costs. It heats any room in minutes using just a fraction of traditional heating costs. Don't let yourself get caught in the cold. Order today at staywarmnow.com and receive 60% off plus free shipping. Stay warm while you follow the truth. And you can support this channel and you can unlock member-only perks. We just launched this. This is brand new. Join our community of patriots, seeking the truth, and get exclusive access to me. That's right. You can click join just below this video window. Now, right angle news. This is all over the press today. We have this manifesto. They call it the real manifesto has been released. And here it is. Pretty short. He says to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly, I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience, a spiral notebook, if present, had some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. He said, frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. And he goes on to talk about how our healthcare system is the most expensive in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. And then he talks about the UnitedHealthcare is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap behind Apple, Google, and Walmart. So this, I mean, according to this was it planted? Is it genuine? We don't know, but it has now been published for everyone to see. But then we've got this. This is bizarre. Elizabeth Warren appears to condone the cold-blooded murder of the UnitedHealthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Let's listen on Joy Reid's program.
Which was we've been talking a lot about this Luigi Mangione, the case about the UnitedHealthcare CEO. People are very angry at UnitedHealthcare, I think for good reason, denying care and the whole system. And we were just talking in the previous block, killing a CEO is not the way you change. You have to regulate them, right? And so we've got attempts to try to rein in some of these big businesses. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was your creation. The Trump administration wants to get rid of it. That is like protecting people from like credit card fraud. What happens if that goes away?
So look, terrible for individuals, but stop and think overall about the social contract. Part of the deal in how we've kept this democracy, this economy, this country on a fairly steady path for more than 200 years has been that those at the top pay a little more in taxes, are a little less rich than they otherwise might be, and everybody else at least gets a chance. And what happens when you turn this into the billionaires run it all is they get the opportunity to squeeze every last penny. And look, we'll say it over and over. Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of UnitedHealth. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
We've been talking.
You can only push people so far, and then they take actions into their own hands. Only a scootercaster for freedomnews.tv. If you're not following them on X, you need to make sure you do. Freedom MSNTV. Wanted posters are now being plastered across Manhattan with pictures of insurance company CEOs. Poster of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson is crossed out. Of course, he was the recent victim of the alleged assassin, Luigi Mangione. And now we're finding out this too. Luigi Mangione supporters have launched a legal fund, raising $35,000 for him after he was accused of murdering healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The obsessed organizers say they now have his mailing address in jail. We've got his mailing address for Luigi in jail. We're writing directly to him to see what he would like us to do with these funds. Thank you for your continued support of the legal fund. We'll keep you updated. And apparently this was footage obtained by TMZ of Mangione smashing a beer on his head and chugging it. Typical college behavior. Here we have this too. This was posted just 2 days ago. The suspect hints he's being framed, alleging that the $8,000 in cash and $2,000 in foreign currency found during his arrest were planted. He's remained silent, with authorities speaking only to a judge, where he mentioned multiple residents, eventually naming Honolulu. Adding to the mystery, he said that bag was waterproof. One of his friends posted on Instagram, the situation's upside down. He's currently being held without bail. Let's listen to how CNN covered this.
We heard the judge. Sure thing, Aaron. Well, yeah, I'll say just about an hour ago, I was there inside that courthouse watching as Luigi Mangione walked right past myself and a number of other reporters. He was wearing a blue shirt, blue jeans. He was, of course, handcuffed, and he looked, even in this court appearance, visibly distressed, but he kept his brow furrowed through the duration of this arraignment hearing. And I should say what was interesting, though, Aaron, is you said we haven't heard a statement from the suspect. He did actually speak inside of that courtroom to the judge and to all the folks who were in there. But it was on very selective issues, and I'll just kind of go through what we heard. The judge asked Luigi Mangione a number of questions, first about his identity. So Mr. Mangione confirmed that that is his real name. He initially said that his residence was in Maryland, but then the judge actually pressed him on that. And then he said, actually, I have lived at various addresses, before then ultimately giving an address in Honolulu, Hawaii. Then he also said that he's worked for 3 years as a data engineer up until about a year ago, and he also told the judge that he has no drug or mental health problems that the court needs to know about. But Aaron, one of the most interesting parts of that particular hearing was actually his statements after the conversation about bail. The prosecutors basically stepped up there and made the case why they believe that this man should be held without bail. They mentioned that he is awaiting potentially an arrest warrant coming from New York City as one of the major reasons. But they also said that prosecutors noted that they found him with $8,000 in U.S. cash, $2,000 in foreign currency, his passport, and also a Faraday bag, which is basically a bag designed to stop transmission of cell service or other sort of things like that. At the end of his speech, the prosecutor's speech, Luigi Mangione said, I actually want to address two of the things that you said. He said, I don't know where that money came from. I'm not sure if it was planted. And then he also said that that bag was waterproof. And the term that the prosecutors used when discussing the Faraday bag, the ghost guns, the 3D printed silencer, was the prosecutors used a phrase saying this is criminal sophistication. Luigi Mangione said, I don't know about any of this criminal sophistication when addressing that. But it's just interesting, Aaron, that of all of the things that were mentioned in that court appearance, the two that he noted or took issue with was the currency and then that bag. Aaron?
Wow. So the plot thickens. We're not done yet. Luigi Mangione, they say that he had a back condition that was so bad that having physical relationships with his back condition wasn't possible. This update comes as left-wingers are fantasizing about having relations with Mangione. And let's listen.
Honolulu, was there sort of any break in his life or anything together as someone who would be
had good relationships with everyone. He was even in some ways a bit of a leader. He helped spearhead a book club that we started just so we could, keep those intellectual pursuits alive from back when we were in school.
So you mentioned that he was into health. How did that manifest himself? And you mentioned you went hiking together, things like that. Can you tell us more about that? Why he cared about health? And I understand also that at one point you did become aware of some issues with his back.
Yeah. So when I first interviewed him before he moved in, I remember he said he had a back issue and he was hoping to get stronger in Hawaii. So he's always focused on trying. When he first came, he went on a surf lesson with other members. And unfortunately, just a basic surf lesson, he was in bed for about a week. We had to get a different bed for him that was more firm. And I know it was really traumatic and difficult. When you're in your early 20s and you can't, do some basic things, it can be really, really difficult.
Did he have any conversations with you then or even afterwards about that issue? And I mean, his back, how he hurt it? I mean, obviously anything to do with the insurance process of it?
The only thing he ever mentioned, he mentioned, I need to go back to see my doctor and then I'm going to have surgery. I encouraged him and brought him to yoga classes. He would do calisthenics on his own. I know he was really focused on being strong and healthy, but it also weighed on him that he knew that there was an impending surgery. So did you, in the context of all the books that you were reading and the book club that he was leading, did you have conversations about any of the issues that, we now even see in the writings that he had on him when he was arrested? I mean, did he talk about, not even as maybe as specific as health insurance, but capitalism, anything of that nature? I apologize. I haven't read any of the media that's happened. I heard about it when a reporter called me. So I'm not familiar with what his writings were, but I know we talked about social issues and we talked about how to improve the world. And we talked about, issues that are, say with capitalism or with the healthcare system or with housing or the food systems. It wasn't, anything specific. It wasn't like he had an axe to grind or he was even upset or angry about a particular issue. They were just natural intellectual conversations that you have when you're inquisitive.
So you stayed in touch with him. I know you spoke to him earlier this year, although I understand, RJ, that you tried to reach out to him multiple times even since then, but that he had not responded in those cases. Can you tell me about your last conversation with him?
Mostly just text messages. So I knew he was going to have a surgery. So earlier this year, I checked in with him. He confirmed that he had surgery and he sent me the x-rays. It looked heinous with just giant screws going into his spine. After that, he called me once. I didn't pick up. We kind of texted a little bit, but unfortunately, I feel terrible now. I wish, I would have made more of an effort to communicate with him.
Did you ever have any conversation with him where he brought up anything like guns or anything in that area?
Never once talked about guns, never once talked about violence. He was absolutely a not violent person, as far as I could tell. Yeah. So
RJ, in all of this, as you're just struggling to get your head around what happened here with someone, that you had considered would be a lifelong friend. And I know you've only had a few hours to even try to comprehend it. But just in these initial hours, do you have any idea why or how someone that you knew in the way you knew him could have done this?
Personally, I can make zero sense of it. There's never justification for violence. We live in a democratic system with processes and procedures to address our issues, and I can make no sense of it.
Well, RJ, I appreciate your taking the time.
Wow. Here's more. This person says, Lawyer Lee, I've been a lawyer for 30 years. There's a lot more to the Luigi Mangione story than we are being told so far. I'm highly concerned about his claim that evidence was planted on him. We'll be looking into this and continuing to report on the case. So this is something we need to follow. I have a clip here of when he was leaving. This is when he was taken into his extradition hearing and he screams out. I mean, this just has Oswald Patsy vibes right here. I mean, let's watch this.
Down. Oh my God! That's completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience. Completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
I mean, this is Oswald vibes all over it. I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, it's just bizarre. It's totally bizarre. An insult to the intelligence of the American people. What is he talking about? So here's another person. I think it's the same person here talking to. We'll get to that in a second. I think we need to play this. What his lawyer had to say. That's actually really interesting. Luigi Mangione's defense attorney says it's concerning that the alleged killer is in jail and refuses to say if he's been retained by his wealthy family.
Can you just tell us, how's your client doing in jail tonight?
Well, Caitlin, thank you for having me. As I've been saying all day, if you put yourself, I tell everybody to use their common sense. Here we have a young man who is incarcerated without bail, as you alluded to, and apparently he's going to be charged with murder in the state of New York. So if you use your common sense, I'm sure he's, it's concerning. That's all I can say.
Well, you've been an attorney for decades. What did you make of the way he went into court earlier, that outburst that he had?
I'm still analyzing that. I was actually on the other side of the wall when he came in, so I didn't hear all that statement. I've been busy all day, so I haven't had a chance to analyze that. So, I'm not going to comment on something, unfortunately, until I can have a chance to hear that in detail and break that down.
Well, being on the other side of it, you were inside that courtroom, of course, and we learned about what happened in there. You're fighting extradition for him to New York. Why are you fighting that? It seems like it's inevitable that he will be sent to New York.
Well, that may be, but again, the Constitution, and I know I keep bringing up that word today, lest we forget about that. But the Constitution gives you certain rights. And we need to make informed decision, and the law permits and the Constitution permits that somebody in Luigi's position has the opportunity to look at evidence, make sure the government follows through a process, and that's what we're doing. So again, I've been in this case probably about 12, 14 hours, maybe whatever, give or take, and I haven't seen a speck of evidence at all. I argued today at the extradition hearing. I still haven't received details about the charges that he's facing in New York. I heard your introduction and looking into that. But so we as lawyers need to make informed decisions, and we need to get our hands and our eyes on some evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the charges right here. It's murder, a loaded firearm, 2 counts of that, a forged instrument, and criminal possession of a weapon as well. I mean, those are the charges from New York. I mean, so as you're fighting extradition, you're not actually arguing that the authorities in New York have the wrong guy, are you?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that they have the right guy. I can tell you that much. So I don't know anything about that. There's identification issues that are present, and so I don't. Like I said, this is why I need to look at some things, and they need to convince me. I try to remind people, and it's a shame that we forget about this presumption of innocence that the Constitution gives all Americans, and people don't worry about the Constitution until they're facing charges or accusations against them. Then trust me, Caitlin.
Okay, Caitlin. All right. Interesting stuff happening here. There's something here. Luigi's manifesto refers to Michael Moore's Sicko documentary on the for-profit U.S. healthcare system. In one part of it, Moore takes first responders to Cuba to get healthcare, if you remember that scene. But again, we're just seeing this manifesto getting published. Was it really him that wrote it? We don't know. Was it planted as well? Luigi Mangione's attorney has announced he plans to plead not guilty.
He apologizes. So your client had an opportunity to say you got the wrong guy, never did. He apologizes in his manifesto for the pain he has caused. He gave voice to his motivation today in front of the cameras. And yet, am I correct that you don't think he did it?
Well, Chris, one thing I always liked about watching you is you're a lawyer, okay? So I don't know if you've done much criminal work or not, but my client hasn't faced any actual criminal charges from New York yet. So he hasn't had an opportunity to make any plea. My anticipation is going to be when and if that happens, he's going to plead not guilty. I mean, we've seen no evidence. We've seen nothing. And I was reminding people today about, you talk about America a little bit and what some wonderful things about this country, and particularly in the criminal justice system, and that's the presumption of innocence. And I don't want people to jump to, these prejudgment things, because nobody would ever want that if they were accused or one of their loved ones were accused. And as the big hearing today, I haven't seen any evidence yet. I don't even know if this is him or whatever. So we're going to test those waters and give the government a chance to bring some evidence forward.
Do the job. Let me ask you something. In terms of developing why he would not be responsible, what understanding do you have about this quiet period that this guy had where nobody could get in touch with him after his surgery, where people were worried about him, that led his family to report him missing? What do you know about that period?
I know nothing about that, Chris, so I wouldn't.
Wow. What else? Okay, so this is Jesse Waters saying, interviewing his friend, saying he was like two different people. And of course, there are some allegations this is some kind of extension of MK Ultra. There's Nancy Pelosi connections here through the Department of Justice investigation, insider trading related to UnitedHealthcare. So there's a lot of really bizarre threads to follow throughout this whole thing. So let's hear talking about two different people.
Take care of himself.
A few months in Honolulu. All right, RJ, did this guy do drugs?
Absolutely none that I was aware of. We were roommates for about 6 months at Surf Break Co-Living, and the entire time that he lived at Surf Break, he was a great community member. He kind of followed by our values and our ethics to leave things better than you found them. He was always contributing, taking care of other people. And even after he moved out, he came and hung out and contributed to the community, spearheaded a book club. He and I became closer friends, working out, going to yoga classes, playing volleyball. He's the kind of guy who was doing his best to take care of himself, despite having some severe back pain and a severe issue.
So he had the back pain, but was doing yoga and volleyball and messing around like that. Was this affecting his sex life?
So he was athletic as long as he could be. I know there were days and perhaps even a week at a time where he was bedridden. So he was doing what he could when he could. I couldn't comment about his sex life or, any of our roommates' sex life, just out of respect for their privacy.
I totally understand. So did he ever mention anything about the Unabomber or any other radical ideas?
So I mentioned one of the great ways he contributed to the surf break community was by spearheading a book club. And he presented a bunch of interesting books to read. I think we started with Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and a few texts in. I actually proposed that we read, it's kind of half joke, but read the Unabomber manifesto. I always wanted to read it, but never got around to it. So that was my suggestion. We had a normal discussion, debate around it. Nothing that stood out at the time, no anger, no a special affinity towards it, just, thought-provoking discussion.
You suggested reading Ted Kaczynski's book. Why? Why were you interested in that?
I have an academic background, and I really enjoy reading just about anything, different perspectives, right, left, middle.
A few months in Honolulu.
Wow.
All right, RJ.
Oh, wow. So much bizarre things happening here. But this manifesto's got a lot of people asking questions. These disturbing wanted posters clearly endorsing the behavior. The lawyer, this bizarre Oswaldian reaction as he's being brought in for his arraignment. A lot of things don't add up, especially the moment where he talked about money being planted on him. So the more we dig into the case, the more questions emerge. A man who couldn't maintain physical relationships due to a back condition suddenly executes a precision hit. A manifesto that reads like it was written by ChatGPT. And now leftists are creating wanted posters for other healthcare CEOs while Elizabeth Warren practically endorses it. So here's what we need to ask ourselves. If Mangione's being framed, who benefits from this healthcare CEO assassination just weeks before Trump's return to power? Drop your theories in the comments below. And while you're connecting the dots, show your investigative spirit with our new Mega Avengers collection, available now at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Link below. These exclusive designs let everyone know you are not buying the official narrative. The truth can't hide forever.